Hello, everyone. Welcome to Development Palates. I'm Aaron Loomis coming to you from the Ventura Cigar Company studio. And with me today is Seth Geis and John McTavish. How you guys doing?
Sublime.
All right.
Doing
Fantastic.
good. Doing good.
So today we are talking about the Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust Todos Los Dias Más Fuerte, thick Lonsdale. So the more of a Corona Gorda, I'd say, 6x46, comes out of the Hoya de Nicaragua factory in Nicaragua. Wrapper binder filler, all from Nicaragua, blended by Steve Saka. Price point is $11.95, and the cigar was released in August of 2018. So with all that info out of the way, John, what was your smoking experience like?
This is enjoyable. The first third really didn't give you any chance to ease in right off the first few puffs, just creamy leather, spices, and the spices are immediately at a medium plus, so there's no ramp up period at all. The sweetness had sort of the syrupy character to it, which actually was really nice because it kind of counteracted the leather. Then I think it was maybe about 5 minutes in, and so I was initially just getting spices. Then about 5 minutes in, I boom got some pretty intense pepper, medium minus, and then just as soon as I got that pepper, I got cocoa to balance out the pepper. So even though there's a lot of intense flavors going on in the first third, they're all fairly balanced, which was really nice. I'd say the profile kind of settled in really well. And then going into the middle third, there's a little bit of nuttiness that came into the mix. So almost like chocolate nuttiness was, and I described it as a chocolate bar, and that's kind of how it came, like a Mr. Big or whatever. And it was a really interesting experience because both the nuttiness and the cocoa were quite intense and really in the same levels. And then the cedar kind of came back, kind of balanced out, and the spices kind of fell off as the middle third progressed. And in the last third, there was a little bit of a toasted character. And I don't mean like a char character, but like a toasted character to it, like toasted nuts or toasted cedar, which was really interesting. And then that sweet creaminess kind of defined what that last third was. And I smoked it the whole way, which is always good times. For burning construction, unfortunately, I did have a couple issues. Did have a slightly wavy burn, which required a touch up, and then in the middle third, the cigar actually went out, requiring a relight, which is unusual. And I'm just going to chalk it up to a one-off because we smoked quite a number of these down in Vegas, and I've smoked quite a number of these not for review and not had an issue. So I think it's just a one-off. But the ash held on well, 2+ inch increments, which was great. Draw, of course, was perfect, which again kind of leads me to think that the construction issue was just a one-off. I had just that right amount of resistance to the draw. Seth, what was your smoking experience like?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the cigar started off great. I mean, I know you mentioned like some coffee and chocolate and red pepper note or pepper notes, and like that's to me what it was delivering that first third. It was just really balanced between this really strong red pepper, and then also there's just like this almost cafe mocha kind of like quality. And then on top of that, it's just as you mentioned, it's a toastiness. There's some earthiness to it. When I get into the second third, the spice, the red pepper notes, they're more pronounced than they were before. But also it's kind of like the coffee and the chocolate flavors also intensified. And I was also getting a nutty, like quality, almost almond toastiness as well. So John, you and I are just kind of like spot on with us right now, it seems. Final third, there's a little bit of transitioning. I'm getting more black coffee notes on this third. Touches of dark chocolate with some softer spices, so it kind of decreased in that sense in the final third. In terms of strength and body, it was medium full for me consistently from throughout. Probably more medium full. But as John said, to me, some of them had lost some of that fresh kick or oomph that we had when they were smoking them in Vegas, which I really liked to the cigars. Construction for me was fantastic. Even burn line from start to finish. Great draw. Smoked very well. Aaron, how about you, man?
Yeah, for me, the cigar started out with some cinnamon and some cedar. A little further in, a little cream joins in, smooths things out. A little further in, that cinnamon kind of transitions to more of like a baking spice and moves to the background. About an inch and a quarter. It was kind of like the creamy note was kind of like subduing or masking the flavors. Kind of like cedar, baking spice, and a little bit of some cocoa were there, but they were just it just felt like there was like something that was kind of holding them back. But right before the end of the third, kind of that masking profile kind of shed off of there, and the cream and the other flavors became much fuller. Strength was right around medium, and then getting in the second third, full amounts of cedar and cream, supporting notes of baking spice, black pepper. A little further in, a subtle cocoa note kind of returns to the profile. Retrohale is really fully charred and creamy wood note. Further in, char makes it to the mouth draws, kind of combines with the wood and cream, kind of transitions over there from the cedar. Still kind of a light cocoa hanging around in the background, a little bit of baking spice there. As the second third wraps up, char increases a little bit, still some creamy wood, and all those faint notes that were in the background kind of went away. Strength bumped up slightly above medium. Final third, charred and creamy wood kind of continues on. A little further in, a little bit of meatiness kind of the profile, kind of get that sensation. Retrohale is kind of slightly charred oak. It has a little bit of that meatiness as well. And then as the cigar wraps up, creamy increases a little bit, kind of creates a fuller profile to go along with that charred wood and the meatiness. Strength still bumps up to medium full. In regards to construction, burn line was a little wavy throughout. Cigar went out once in the second third, kind of requires a relight at that point. Ash held on in just over 1 inch increments. In regards to the draw, just a little bit tighter than I prefer, but it didn't cause any issues with the experience at all. So just kind of a slight tick off there. So John, what were your overall thoughts on the cigar?
I think when Steve says Mas Fuerte, he really means it. It definitely was stepped up. And I think what was nice is when you say more intense, sometimes people just throw in more Ligero and you just call it a day, and they don't really worry about balancing the flavor profile. And I didn't really get the sense that was what he did here, because the flavors were still intense. So yeah, it had a pretty big punch to it, but it didn't feel at any time like it was just a punch for the sake of punch. The flavors were also really intensified over the other sizes that I've had. I enjoyed it. I thought if you're wanting that more full experience, I can't see anybody being unhappy with this. What about you, Seth?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it. I mean, yes, Steve wasn't lying about it. I think Todos Los Dias in general has a good bit of strength to it. I think this one has a little bit more, but he also has tons of flavors with it. I'll go back to when we smoked these, and I don't know how, I'm assuming they're fairly new, fairly young and fresh when we smoked them in Vegas, and I thought they were smoking great. Just spending time in my, humidor, they lost some of that. I'm not saying that they're by any means weak. They just don't have that fresh pop, which I liked originally, but it's still, really enjoyable cigar. It's one of my favorites by Steve.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I like the flavors in the first third, even though there was that point where like the flavors seemed to be kind of subdued a little bit. But then as the cigar went along, I kind of lost out in the flavor complexity and things like that. Construction's pretty good. Little burn issues, I think, similar to what you had, John, where it kind of went out once. Definitely, there's a more strength to this cigar, but for me, I felt like that strength was brought in at the kind of taken out some of the nuance of the line. I prefer other Vitolas ahead of this one, but if I'm looking for strength, I might come to this one for a little bit more. But if I'm looking for flavor, I'm going to go back to some of the original Vitolas. But you kind of have to just decide what mood you're in. So getting the scores, we'll start at the top. John, you gave it a 6.97. Seth, you were next with a 6.57. And then I gave it a 5.75. So John, how do you think that score matched up with your experience?
Yeah, man, this cigar couldn't really be more in my wheelhouse. This is something that, scoring aside, I think this is something that I could be smoking on the regular. Like I would go into my humidor and go, what do I feel like smoking today? Oh, well, Todos Los Dias, Mas Fuerte is going to be it, because I just want to punch myself in the face with flavor and, it'd be my happy place. So.
All right, so that's 6.57.
Yeah, I mean, it lines up with what I'd give it. And it's kind of repeat what John said. It's score aside. It's definitely this size in particular. It's something I'd light up all the time.
Yeah, for me, I thought it was just slightly above average flavor profile, more strength for the sake of strength than flavor and nuance than what I got from the previous Vitolas of the Todos Los Dias. So, for me, I think it felt fairly average, not the one I would gravitate to. Any other final thoughts on this cigar?
I think so.
All right. If you're just catching this video on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to us. We'll also check out the full written review on the website, developingpalates.com. Follow us on all the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google+. Catch all of our review recaps on podcasts, iTunes, Google Play, and Podbean. Thank you for tuning in. We will catch you on the next one.
Mas Fuerte.